Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. We are going over the 11 books that I read in April. Now I did finish all of my prompt reads, which again, so great. 4 months in a row we've done it. And I had given myself 3 extra books to read because they were new releases in March, and I got those done too. So we're feeling really good. We read so much. So let's get into it. So we did read 2 fantasies and 9 romances. I had previously said that I am slowing down on the fantasies because I want to catch up on my other ones. And let's just say these 2 that I read this month were pretty good starters. So I'm glad I got to them. They also were a part of my prompt pick, so that's kind of why we have them. But I think we should just dive right in. The first one was a prompt that is a TV or a movie show adaptation, and we have The Discovery of Witches. I'm gonna raise that up a little bit so we have it fully in the picture. So A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I have chosen this one because I have seen the first 2 episodes of the TV show. I was starting the 3rd one and realized that it was a book series, and I was like, oh my god, what am I doing watching this show? I need to read the book because the show was so good in those 2 episodes. I have finished this book and I want to go back and watch the show because I'm just so hooked. Now this book was a lot, and if you read it you know what I mean, and there's 2 perspectives you can take it this way. You can either not like how descriptive she is, or you can appreciate how descriptive she is. I appreciate it because Deborah is, I believe, a historian. If I remember, she's a professor of history at the University of Southern California and has like fellowships from Fulbright, Guggenheim, and the National Humanities Center. I appreciate her detail to everything because you know what she's describing in this book. You know what she's describing is true and real. It's not something that's made up. It's not something just come alive in the author's brain. Like, this stuff is real that she's describing. I appreciate that so much. Now, could this book be about 150 pages shorter if you took out all those descriptions? Yes. I'm not mad at it. I also did not like the kind of pacing of this personally. It was like kind of captivating in the beginning and then slow in the middle and then captivating again at the end. It kind of took me out of it a little bit. I did immersive read this one. I did mostly reading with some audio. When I was reading those slower parts, it really dragged, unfortunately. But I still gave this book a 4-star because I am still in this. I like how we ended. I'm ready for the next book. Like, I really want to get into it. And I need to see what part of the shows, like how far season 1 goes into, because there's, I think if I'm right, this started off as a trilogy, but she's then written 2 more books. And the show has 3 seasons, so I'm like, does season 1 just have the first book in it and season 2 goes into book 2? Or does book 2 trickle into season 1? So I'm just kind of curious how that's gonna work out, but we'll definitely be watching the show soon because it was so good, and I really liked putting characters to who's being described, especially the 2 main characters, Matthew and Diana. I should probably tell you what this book about. Well, her name is Diana Bishop, and she is a part of the Bishop witches family. She's the last descendant, and she just decided not to use her powers. She didn't want to do that. She didn't want to like have her life revolve around it or use her powers, so she kind of put them away and has decided to become a historian. And she's working at the University of Oxford, and she's like working, I believe, as like, she's not a, it's like she's kind of a student, but then she's not because she's like officially a doctor, so she's gone through her dissertations and all of that, and she's like prepping for a keynote speaker thing at a conference. And she comes along this book, feels a little weird. She goes through it and, you know, takes her notes and then puts the book away and lets it go back to the stacks. The next day, she ends up running into this vampire named Matthew. Matthew Claremont is his name. I was just remembering his last name because he has multiple names. He's a vampire and has been alive for a very, very long time. This book that she pulled out has been missing or lost for centuries. She somehow was able to recall it. Nobody knows why. He's been looking for that book for centuries. He is trying to like get to know her and see if she can have the book recalled. But what happens is there's another witch that was kind of studying kind of side by side by her, not with her, but like near her. That witch reports about this book being found, and so another witch shows up and demons start popping up because they all want this book. This book has been missing for centuries. No one has found it. She somehow recalled it. They all want it. That means they want her, unfortunately. They they need her, so they either need to get her on their side or they're going to do bad things. But I still was captivated in it. I still can't wait to read the next one. I still love the dynamic of everything that has happened. And like, without going too much into descriptive of how it ends, we kind of just see this like little group come together essentially to kind of figure things out. Now, the only other thing that is in this is that there is the small plot of romance. I mean, I guess some people would say it's a little more, but I kind of see it as small. I didn't really like the romance in here. We kind of went from 0 to 60 in like 3 weeks. And to me, I was just kind of like, what? Like, it was weird. I didn't really agree with it. It's there, but it's not like, if it was more of a you worked towards that relationship, then maybe, yes. But it's the fact that we went from like nothing to kind of like, I love you, and you're like, That little piece was kind of a little hard for me to agree with. I still gave this a 4 stars. I think this is a really good book. I think it has potential to grow, especially with where we're going. And like I said, I do really appreciate Deborah's knowledge behind this, because there's so many things and so many like people that they bring up with that I thought was really funny, because obviously Matthew the vampire has lived for a very long time. When they were just kind of talking and she's like, wait, you knew this person, you knew Isaac Newton, you knew William Shakespeare, you knew like all these important figures throughout history. It's just like, it's so funny. It was so well done on that aspect. I do enjoy it. I do recommend it, and I can't wait to read the next book and watch the show. Okay, book 2. This was a book that starts with the letter T, because I have starts with the letter TBR as like a little fun joke in my jar. But we did Twisted Love by Anna Wong. Now this is the first book in the Twisted series. I think everybody knows this. I think everybody who has read this has always said book 1 is kind of meh and book 2 is good. I'm gonna disagree. I thought book 1 was actually pretty good. Now I haven't read book 2, so I can't compare that. I'm intrigued for book 2 because of how we kind of end off, and you obviously meet those characters throughout here. But this one wasn't too bad, and I don't understand the hate. I don't. So I'm sorry if you disagree with me. That's okay. We're allowed to have our own opinions. Do I think it's the greatest book ever though? No. I think for what it is, it was okay. It was a decent. I gave it a 3 star because I think that's just, to me, that's a standard, and 3 is not a bad star. I would say 2 or below is probably like a not so good in my opinion, but like 3 I think is great. It's a great start. You have room to improve, you have room to go down. And I just thought this was a pretty decent book. Now, were the parts of this book that you obviously just wouldn't understand? Yes, because we have Ava, our FMC. She is, if I remember correctly, I think she is still in college. Or she's like just out of college, but she does photography as like a side job. And this is one of those things where it's kind of like you go back and forth on the book, because you start off with her being a photographer and she does like engagement photos on the side and all that stuff, and then you like never really read about it again in the book. So it's kind of that aspect that is funny to me. But she lives in a home with her, I can't remember if it's like a home that has been renovated to be 2 homes so that you can rent it out to 2 different people, or if it's 2 separate homes next to each other, like townhomes or something. I didn't really understand that part. But she lives next door to her brother. Her brother is about to go on a year-long, like kind of like Doctors Without Borders, essentially. What's the easiest plan to keep her protected? Her brother's best friend, Alex, decides to move in. Now, Alex is like a billionaire. So why is he randomly moving into this home to watch her and protect her? That doesn't make any sense, but it's the whole thing of like making sure, like, her brother is really concerned about her and wants to make sure she's protected. She has unfortunately had some scary incidents in her past that she does not remember. Like, she kind of has some sort of amnesia along with it, or just kind of like blocked memories. She also has like an ex who the brother is kind of worried about, doesn't think leaves her alone. So yeah, they kind of go by living day by day. There's always been this thing of like, he's obviously very attractive. He's the brother's best friend. So, you know, apparently every woman wants that, the brother's best friend. I can say that I've never felt that way about my brother's own friends. No offense if you guys watch these. I'm sorry, you're great guys, but you're also like 8 years older than me. When I was a child, that was not what I was. But we kind of learn that Alex has been friends with them for a while for a reason. I don't really want to give it away because I do think you should read the book, and I will say I haven't read a book that kind of went that in depth. And this is kind of where I don't understand the hate, because there is some thought into this book. Some thought about how this whole thing was planned, like how Alex's relationship and friendship with this family happened. And I think it's actually really smart because he himself does have a troubled past. It led him to where he is today and how these two have met. I just think it was a pretty well planned out book. The setup for book 2 is pretty good, so I am excited to read that. I'm a little intrigued on how book 2 is gonna go just because of what it's like about a princess and a bodyguard essentially. The whole, like, the ending of this book, you learn that the princess's older brother decides that he wants to marry a commoner, so he has to denounce his prince title and can no longer be in for royalty. So she has to, essentially, she's the next queen of their country. But like, she's obviously gonna fall in love with the commoner too, so like, how is that gonna work out? But it is feeling a little Princess Diaries. So I am kind of excited to read that one. I think this one's pretty good. I don't get the hate on it, and I'm not gonna stop reading her books because I do enjoy her writing. Okay, next we had a yellow cover and we have The Match by Sarah Adams. I do not say this lightly. Read her books. Read her books. This was my first book by her, and I hate how long I've waited to read them because this was so good. So well planned out, so well written, so beautifully done, and just, it was good. It was so good. I think I literally on Fable posted a thing because why did I stay up till 2 in the morning and read this book? I read this book in less than 24 hours. Fully was like, I started it at 5 p.m. and I read it until 2 a.m. and finished it the next day because I was up, I was giddying, I was laughing. I loved everything that happened here, and I'm definitely going to be reading more of her books. I have a lot of them. So we have Evie, our FMC, and she has epilepsy, and she's had it ever since she was a kid. She grew up in a very like prim and proper, this is in Charleston, South Carolina, so if you've been around Charleston, you know kind of the class structure. It's kind of that whole southern class structure where she grew up with the family name. Her parents did not see it as something that was good and should not be talked about or discussed, that kind of, you know, snobby background. So when she is first met and given and has the opportunity to have a service dog, it completely changes her life because it means she can go live on her own. She can, you know, be independent, not be reliant on her parents, live a normal life. She works for the animal service that provided the dog for her, and because she's doing this, her parents have essentially cut her off, told her that, you know, we're not going to be providing for you if you're gonna go run off and do this little hobby. So it's that kind of family aspect. She does not care. She is living her happy, independent life. So the company she works for receives an email that there is a little girl who has epilepsy and she wants to possibly see if getting a dog is right for her. She goes to meet these clients, and when she goes to meet them, she meets the dad, and he is kind of rude, he's kind of off-putting, and he does not understand what's going on, and she puts 2 and 2 together to realize that the daughter was the one who wrote the email saying that they're interested, and he has to be unfortunately kind of rude. He doesn't see how that's going to help her, kind of thing, and they part ways. So after he does talk about it with his daughter a little bit, he sees how upset she is, he decides to give it a try. Evie helps them, the MMC, Jacob and his daughter Sam, I should probably say their names. So Evie is then helping them find a match for Sam, the daughter, with a guide dog, and she's also trying to like help convince the dad, saying she can live a more independent life, she can be, you know, not watched all the time because of how much like service dogs can actually help in this instance. And so during the training process, we see Evie and Jacob get closer, and you can just see in this book how much Sarah either has firsthand experience with epilepsy or service dogs, or she did her research on it, because it was so well done in that way. And the just aspect between the FMC and the MMC in this book was very well done. It's very, like, I learned things from this book. And I kind of always love when you can walk away from a book and be like, okay, I learned something here. And we're also seeing from Jacob's side of things, his past on how he is where he is, on how he was married to someone, they had a daughter together, they have since divorced, and the mom of the daughter has left, and she's kind of in and out of the daughter's life, and that affects Sam, the daughter. It's very well, beautifully written. It's a lot of fun times. It's a lot of giggling. There's a lot of jokes in there. There's some very serious things that go along as well. But start to finish, front cover to back cover, so good. I gave it a 5-star because I was just like, I don't even know what else to rate this. There's nothing else. There was a point where I was just like, well, I didn't exactly get 5-star feeling, so it could be like 4.75, but then I was just in my head like, no. The way I was literally like, giggling while reading this book was insane. So I was like, no, it's a 5-star. It's a good one. If you haven't read them, please do. You do get a little hint on the second book, The Enemy, which is Jacob's sister and her storyline. So that one seems really fun and I can't wait. Okay, this book was the prompt Spicy Romance. And it's called Business or Pleasure. So we have our FMC Chandler. She is a writer and she's mostly doing ghostwriting for memoirs. Because if y'all didn't know, some of those memoirs you've read have had somebody else writing them. Yes, that's a thing. It's so crazy. But if it's done correctly, it's done really well. And if it's done right, the memoir person that is about gives either credit or says they had help instead of just saying it was all on their own, because we know some of these memoirs that have come out was not written by sane people, or it was written by sane people but the person the memoir is about is not sane. Anyways, so she's a ghostwriter. She's been helping a couple people write their books and watch them become big, but her name is not on it. She's kind of wanted to be an author. Like, she always said it when she was growing up, she wanted to be an author, but like hasn't actually become one because it's a lot. It's a lot to become an author. I don't ever want to be an author. I don't know how these people come out with these books. I don't know how they come up with these ideas. It's a lot of hard work, and sometimes it's not a lot of rewarding money-wise work. But essentially, she has a one-night stand with somebody, and it's not good. It is not good at all. A couple days later, she gets a ghostwriting offer. She's gonna go meet with the person she's supposed to write about and their manager, and we find out that that person is who she had the one-night stand with. A lot, I know, right? And so she agrees to kind of help write this man. Oh, I should probably say his name. Finn. He is an actor, and he was on a television show for 4 years that was about, it was basically Teen Wolf, but college years. Because, so like college wolf. Because they're not teenagers. It was on for 4 seasons because you usually go to college for 4 years standard. And then it came off, and ever since then he's kind of done like some C-list movies, and he does all of the cons, like Comic Cons, throughout the year. He's the one who's always at them. Everybody loves him. And as they are working together, they are like one night having dinner together or something, and it comes up about their one night, and they decide to like just kind of say, hey, let's just act like this never happened and let's get this book written for you. It's something along the lines where he says something about like having mind-blowing sex with somebody, and she's just kind of like, and then he is like, what? And is confused, and she essentially is honest with him and was like, well, it could have been better. It was like, this happened. It became something of, well, while we're writing this book and traveling the continental US together, going from con to con, she's gonna give him spicy lessons. As you can see, I picked this book because I had the prompt Spicy Romance. Wasn't really that spicy. It was a little bit, but not as, I've definitely read way more spice in a book than this one. Like, at least one of the other books, like Twisted Love, had way more spice than this one. Yeah. So throughout the book, we go from con to con, and we have some spicy lessons while she's trying to get to know him and get to know his lifestyle and kind of see what type of person he is so that she can like write as him and kind of like say it in his voice. I will say though, at the end of this book, it did just kind of like go downhill. We kind of reached this like what normally would be a third act breakup wasn't really a breakup. It was just kind of like this decision to separate from each other because they were spending like, she just kind of was like, I need space, and then went away, and then it was like, I don't know, it just kind of didn't really make sense and just kind of dropped, and then they got back together, and then the ending happened, and it was just kind of downhill. Now, it did not put me off of her writing because I do have a couple other books from her, but it's still a pretty good book. I gave it a 3.5 star. It's obviously a little bit spicy. Definitely could have had a spicier book for this prompt, but it was on my 26 for 2026 as well because I've had this on my desk, on my bookshelves for quite some time, so that's why I put it on there. We got one checked off, so that feels good. Okay, next is the book that had a bird on the cover, and we have a little raven down there, so not the biggest bird you've ever seen on the cover, but it was still pretty good. Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. This was fun, and it's very funny. It's written that way. Definitely had a good time during it. I do think it's something that people should read. I'm intrigued on how this is going to go because it is 4 books. We kind of have a conflict at the end of this book. Well, let me get into a little bit. So we have Evie, and she is quite literally, she was out looking for a job because she had lost her job at a blacksmith, and she needed a job because she has to support her dad and her sister. But she lost a job, and she needs a job to be able to take care of them, right? So she's walking in the woods because she is feeling really bad and down about herself because she had the opportunity to have a job but gave it to somebody else because they were like a mom and had a couple kids, and she let them take that job. Very kind of her to do that. She's walking around the woods when she shouldn't be. She ends up getting kind of like tackled by this guy. She doesn't know who he is. She's freaking out, but he's telling her to be calm because he's being hunted. As they are running from the people they are being hunted from, she finds out that he is this villain and that there's this king. It's so weird to describe this. There's this kingdom, and for like the last 10 years, there's been this evil villain who has been like basically messing with the king and not trying to take over and not exactly trying to destroy his life, but just essentially, meddling with everything. And we find out that he has this whole almost kingdom of his own and is just trying to work to and destroy the king. And essentially, he finds out that she needs a job, and he offers her to be his assistant. The descriptors of this, the banter between the two of them, and just the things that go on in this story are so insane. It's a crazy ride from start to finish. It leaves you off with kind of a cliffhanger of like what's going to happen next because of what happens with her and her family and what happens with the villain. It is just quite the fun read. I'm intrigued by book 2, but like I said, I'm intrigued on how we're gonna go for book because it's assistant, book 2 is apprentice, then it's accomplice, then it's adversary. I'm just intrigued on like how we're going to continue the story. There's 2 major things that happen at the end of this book. I'm intrigued on how those are going to get solved, and then how it leads us into a bigger problem kind of thing. There's a lot that goes on, and I could see it being something that like is solved very quickly, but I'm also like, are we dragging this out through 4 books? So I'm a little intrigued by that. I definitely think I will read book 2. I have book 2. I don't have 3 or 4. I don't even think 4 is out yet, but I will definitely read book 2 and then kind of decide from there if I want to continue or not, because I have a feeling that it could go downhill really quickly. I will say this little frog guy is definitely my favorite part of this book. And if you know, you know. What did I give this one? I think I gave it a 3.5. Just because it like wasn't my favorite. I think if it wasn't so funny, it wouldn't have been that high of a rating. But I kind of like that we're looking at the villain side of things. We're kind of getting that aspect instead of just everyone being a hero. It's been a fun read. So the next one, this was a prompt that had a number in the title, and so we have 1 Star Romance by Laura Hankin. This one was really fun. I really enjoyed this one. Now, if you may have watched my May TBR prompts, I talked about how I read 3 books this month that involved writing of somehow. This is book number 2. This one was really fun because not only was this a fun read and a good read, it was also just like the way it was structured I really enjoyed. So we have Natalie, our FMC. She is a writer. She lives in New York City with her best friend. We start out this book with them going to like her friend's birthday party. She's kind of intrigued on why her friend is dating this guy because they've been together for like a year and he's not exactly perfect for her in Natalie's view. During this little party, she meets her best friend's boyfriend's friend, Rob, and he is currently going through grad school to become a professor. They kind of get to chatting. They kind of hit it off a little bit, but during this party, like she's kind of confused because there's a lot of people there. And as she's talking to Rob, she finds out that her best friend's boyfriend was like, hey man, no, I really want you to come out here for this night. And then she sees that like his parents are there, her best friend's parents are there. She's kind of confused on what's going on. It turns into a surprise proposal, and the best friend says yes. How I said I like the structure of this book is, so we have this couple that just got engaged, right? Their best friends are our FMCs. I really liked how we go through this journey that is basically through the best friends, but it's from these other 2 perspectives. And it was kind of a cool setup to see like how, you kind of have these mutual friends and how you might get to know each other through that. But we essentially go through Natalie and Rob seeing each other through their best friends' lifetime achievements. So they first meet when the friends get engaged. They meet again when the friends get married. They meet again when the friends have a baby, and we meet again at a Christmas party. And this all probably takes the course of, God, I want to say like 8 years, I want to say, maybe even close to 10 near the end of it. And it was just kind of really cool to see that setup and how it was planned. And we kind of see kind of a relationship forming, but then it's also like, well, the first time they meet, she's seeing somebody, he's not. The second time they meet, they both are about to start a relationship with other people. And then there's like, he's seeing someone, but she's not. I don't know. It's kind of a lot, but it was a really fun book. I gave it a 4.5 star because it was really fun. It was really well planned out. I haven't really read anything like it. And we kind of go through the ups and downs of their careers and their personal lives. We go through her, she's a writer, she has a book. It doesn't really sell, and she's struggling to write her second book. And then later in the book, that book gets picked up for a TV show. And on his side, we go through his life of being like becoming a professor, working at a college, and trying to get tenure. The only reason this wasn't a 5-star to me, either the whole book needed to be from the FMC's point of view, or we needed more of the MMC's point of view. Like just a little bit, because I feel like we kind of focus on her story a little bit more than his. It kind of would have been one of those things where if we got an even amount, we would understand them both, or if we got hers, we would learn his through her. But we didn't really get like kind of the in-between mix, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm not making sense. But otherwise, this book, 1-star romance, for me is not a 1-star. It's a 4.5 star. And I definitely think you should read it. Okay, so those were all the books that I had prompts for. I then have 3 books that were for my 26 for 2026 new releases that I wanted to read. But I read 2 books before that. So I have Just My Type by Fallon Ballard. This is another writing journey story. And this one was really fun. So we have Lana. She's our FMC of this book. She is a writer for a more of a website kind of publication, because as we know today, print and newspapers aren't exactly anything anymore, and she wanted to become like a newspaper writer, and she really wants to focus on like books and movie reviews. That's kind of like her thing. She has been writing the romance blog, basically like the relationship blog for this company. I think it's like she's been working here for like 6 to 8 years, and her boss has kind of been like kind of trickling like, you know, someday you'll write the movies and book reviews, but somebody else is writing that currently, kind of thing. And so she's like, if they were to go, then you would have it. We find out that a like larger corporation, like I think it's supposed to be like the LA Times, is buying their website and is going to help them because they're having trouble with getting clicks. But if they partner with the LA Times, then it can kind of get them more. But during this process, they are going to take on this other writer, and he's been known as this like travel writer for like the last 6-7 years, and he is going to be kind of working through them and getting trained by them so that he can work fully for the LA Times. This person, Seth, is actually her high school ex. Now, they were like high school sweethearts, and they were supposed to go off to college together, but they have different lifestyles. And then they ended up breaking up right before college started, because he was supposed to go out there with her and he decided not to. He figured it would be something that would, you know, maybe in a few years we'll rekindle and we'll get back together. But she was just very upset, and this led to her being in like long-term relationships, basically being a serial monogamist. She would be together with someone for 3 years, they'd break up a month later, she'd be in a new relationship, and that relationship would go on for a few years as well. And so during that whole time, she's writing for this magazine, giving relationship advice, which probably shouldn't. But anyways, so he comes in, and the owner of the online magazine is basically finds out they used to date, and he's a serial dater, she's a serial monogamist. It becomes this whole competition where they both need to try to do, he needs to learn how to settle down, and she needs to learn how to be alone. And it becomes this whole competition. It's kind of a mess. It's kind of a lot. Fallon's writing, to me, is just so beautiful. I have read 3 books by her now, and I have loved every single one of them. And it was one of those books where you think you know how it's going to end. You think you know what's going to happen, and something else happens. And you're like, oh my god. And so, we kind of go through this, like I said, the journey of Lana trying to be alone and needing to understand about how she needs to do that. And they both write like a list of 10 things they need to complete. It's interesting to see them go through this journey together. It's a really good book, and I think you should read it. And like I said, this is the 3rd book that I read this month about writers, and they were all different. They were all different in their own aspect of like, one is a ghostwriter, One is an author of books and one is a writer for magazines. It was a really good month this month. Okay, so I reread First Time Caller because I read this when it came out last year by B.K. Borson. It was just as good as I remembered. The second I started rereading this, there's just something about her writing that it's just so different. It's just so, I don't know what it is, but it was just really good. It made me laugh. Maybe it gives me that nostalgia of the 90s movies because obviously this one is Sleepless in Seattle, right? Yeah, Sleepless in Seattle. So it's like, it kind of goes back to that in the banter, and I just absolutely loved it. And just the references in this book are just so funny. The writing is witty, and it's just a really fun time. And it's still as good the second time. And I read this because I wanted to read And Now Back to You. And I read And Now Back to You, and I gotta say, it was not what I expected it to be in the not so good way. So I did give it a 3.75, which again, still a really good rating for me, but I was expecting more. Obviously, this one was supposed to be more When Harry Met Sally. It didn't hold up to the first book in my opinion, and I've seen a lot of people and read a lot of reviews that kind of agree with a lot of things that I said. I did write a pretty long-winded review because I had some if, ands, or buts about this. The book started out slow, but then I was really hooked into like the second half because it was interesting. But we have Jackson, who does the weather for a radio station, and Delilah, who does the weather for the news channel across the street. We learned in the first book that there has been some like back and forth between them of like parking spaces. Like they seem to kind of run into each other not in a good way. And she's always like cheery, happy-go-lucky, and he just like sometimes doesn't like that. And we find out that the two stations are working together and they're going to report on this big snowstorm that's coming because it's supposed to be the biggest one that hits Baltimore in a while, and they have to work together. And they're going to go to this like snowy mountain area for, I think it's like a week, and then they're supposed to come back. And a lot of stuff ensues in this. I have a feeling a lot of people have already read this, so you know what I'm talking about. One of my biggest qualms with this was the first book, Jackson seemed like a completely different character. We do obviously learn about him more in this one, but in the other one he just kind of seems like that nerd best friend that just like doesn't get the happy ending in movies. But in this book he obviously has his own story. But we actually learn he's a pretty complex character. He has full custody of his twin sisters and has had them for a very long time and is helping them grow and making sure that he's taking care of them. But I actually did really enjoy like his story. And then her background, Delilah, she has a grandfather who basically raised her, and he is unfortunately battling with Alzheimer's. So we're kind of going through that and seeing somebody who always presents as happy-go-lucky, cheery, you know, exciting, is actually struggling on the inside. And I do love their storylines, but I don't like that this book basically took place within like 2 weeks. I don't like these types of stories. I wasn't expecting this type of storyline for them. And then obviously, as I said, they both have these kind of complex backgrounds. We don't really like fully dig into them, or like they as a couple or people getting to know each other actually discuss that with each other. You kind of just see the problems from the backside, and like how we talk about how this book is a fast-paced book. There was this kind of aspect from her side of things where she was like they at the time they had only like just kissed, and she's like, he has every right to not tell me about his family, but I kind of want to know what's going on with his family, and why won't he tell me what's going on with his family? And I'm like, girl, you've only really physically talked for like a week. Calm down. It was kind of a lot. And again, with like the fast-pacedness of this, I was kind of expecting, like, you know, we sit here, we go away for 7 days. Like, I wasn't expecting how she helps him with his anxiety not to happen on literally the first day. I was kind of expecting it on like day 3, and kind of the breakdown with that, especially with the book that is 440 pages. It just, you can't have a romance that is that long, that is 440 pages, but only takes over 2 weeks. That's just kind of hard for me to get behind. I definitely think First Time Caller is a better one, and this one is still good. It had more potential. I think I got my hopes up a little too high for this one. 3.75 is still a really good rating. Would I read it again? Not 100% for sure. I do like that we do have some pretty cohesive covers as well with the two, with the two colors and everything. So I don't know. I definitely think Ada Valentine is more mine than Jackson Clark was. Okay, I'm gonna switch these because I want to talk about this one first. In Her Own League. Oh no, my battery. In Her Own League, Liz Tomford. If you've read the Windy City series, you were expecting this book. Now, I didn't want to expect too much because we obviously learn about Emmett and Reese in the Caught Up and Play Along books. And so I didn't really go into this with high hopes because this is also technically not supposed to be a part of the Windy City series, and it's not going into a new spin-off series. And I have some opinions on this, because what did I give it? Let me double check. I know it's low. I gave it a 2.5. Now, if you haven't read the Windy City series, please read that before you read it, or at least read Caught Up and Play Along before you read this. How long was this one? Let's talk about long books again. It's exactly 400 pages. At least my copy is. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite. It very much dragged in my opinion, and I didn't want to pick it up. In my opinion, this book should have been a novella, should have been about 200 pages, and it all should have been in Reese's point of view. Because we already know about Emmett, we know about his background, we know about everything through the other 2 books. And so as we know, Emmett is the manager for the baseball team, and Reese has just come in as the new owner. She has literally everybody against her because she's the first female owner, and she's also not just the owner, she's like the general manager. And so anytime she makes a decision, it's going to be criticized up the wazoo just because she's a woman, which we see this in sports all the time right now. I really wish the book, like I said, was from her point of view, and it was kind of focused on that and less on the relationship between Emmett and Reese. Because as we see from Emmett's side of view, he kind of just wants it to happen naturally, and she's kind of like this whole thing of like, no, we can't be seen that way, especially with his contract coming up at the end of this season. And so it's kind of, you don't want it to be seen as he's sleeping with her just to get his contract redone, or he's only into her because he wants a good contract, that kind of stuff. And I just really wish it was kind of focused more on her story and it was from her side of view. I'm not saying that Emmett's took it down, but I don't think we needed the full in-depth description of them hooking up kind of stuff. And I think if we just did a novella from her point of view that focused on her journey through this, I think would have been better. I'm not explaining this very well, and I'm so sorry I'm not. I will say the ending, because you're like, she's gonna woman boss this through somehow. Like, she has to like boss bitch this somehow. And when that happens, beautiful. Oh, I think I reread that scene because I was just like, that's what I wanted. But I didn't want to wait 300 plus pages for that. Because I did almost DNF this. I think I was maybe like 30% through, and I was just like, I don't want to read. Like, they're obviously going to be together. It's a romance story. Yeah, that's kind of all I really want to talk about this one. I was expecting more. I didn't 100% love it, and we do need more women in sports, especially women in male-dominated industries, because we obviously are great at it. Alrighty, my last book. Cara Bastone, my favorite author, We have another 5-star from her. Please stay. No matter what, this was the new release. This was so good. Oh my god. This is miscommunication done right. Every other miscommunication you've ever heard or read about, usually wrong and like usually pisses people off, in this book was so good. I understand, because I've read some reviews on this. Some people did not agree with that. They don't agree with the miscommunication being good because they're like so mad about the husband not communicating properly. But like, you learn in the book that he's trying to work on it. He's trying to work on using his words, because he normally wasn't somebody who used his words. He usually was the type that just kind of was like, yeah, So like, he's trying to learn how to process his words correctly and use them in terms to make them be communicated correctly. And so that's what I think people are missing with this book. So we have Roz and Vin. They have been married for a few years, and they unfortunately went through this huge life-changing event. There was a huge accident that the two of them and Vin's brother, that they all were involved in. It's one of those things that throughout the book you learn that it's like a year of healing, of physically, mentally, emotionally healing from what happened to them. Through that, their relationship, Roz and Vin, has kind of gone away. It's kind of separated. They're not talking to each other like they used to. They're not being with each other like they're used to. They're quite literally sleeping in different rooms. And Roz comes home one day and she finds an apartment and realizes that she thinks her husband is leaving her, unfortunately. And so she's going through some emotions through that. She ends up taking a drawing class where they have the nude model and you have to draw them from different angles. Drawing has kind of become cathartic for her. She's kind of okay at it, but she's not the greatest at it. But she's wanting to get better at it because she's learning things about herself throughout the journey. And we get to this point where she wants to do it more, but the classes are expensive. And so she wants to find somebody to do the nude modeling so that she can draw, but her husband then decides to offer to do it for her. And we just kind of see them go through this whole book of, like I said, the miscommunicating, but also like kind of re-getting to know each other and re-falling in love with each other. And it is just so beautifully written. Kara's writing is just so captivating. Her storytelling is amazing, and I need more from her. I don't know how she does it, and how she's written 3 completely different books. It's just so amazing. If you know her books and you know these writings, when you find out, because there was one other person that was in their accident that got injured as well, and you hear a name and you're like, okay, like it kind of, there's kind of like a little itch and you're like, okay. And then near the end of the book, we get a little snippet of some other characters in her past book, and I was like, I literally went, oh my god, it's quite literally 2 lines. There's like 2 lines of these characters, and I just was like, and I think I literally screamed a little bit. I think I did one of those, like, while I was reading, I went, oh my god, like out loud, because I was just so excited to see one of my literal favorite book boyfriends pop up in this book just for 1 second, and I was so happy. I really enjoyed this. This was really good. 5 stars. Did I have 2 5 stars? I had 2 5 stars this month. I love it. I love finding more books to love, especially new authors. I think I've read so many in this last month that we've got a lot, because I think Sarah Adams is going to basically become one of my new auto-buy authors, because Cara Bastone is one, B.K. Borison is one. You could technically consider Liz one too. Fallon Ballard has become one as well. We've got a lot going on. So that was a good month of April. If you are still here, thank you so much for sticking around. I very much do appreciate it. I know these rambles can go on for so long. Please make sure to like, subscribe, comment if you feel like it. If you don't know what to comment, let me know what you read in April and what your favorite was. And I will see you all on the next one. Bye! Oh, I am going to be trying to do a little bit more videos. I've had a pretty stressful with work the last 2 months, that's why I haven't posted that much. And I'm trying to plan out things a little better. So hopefully I'll have a little bit more videos for you. So yeah, okay, bye.